Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Right, so pre-season is underway. Let's take a look at every Premier League club and the weirdest result that you've had in pre-season in the past. Arsenal, 10-1 win versus Barnet. Back in the summer 2004, Arsenal were a brilliant team. Unlike the visitors at the Neverland Ranch, they were untouchable. They hadn't lost a league game in well over a year. They just won the league and then suddenly found themselves 1-0 down at Barnet after 4 goddamn minutes. I'm not sure if that Barnet team was made up of lads from down the pub or defenders seemingly allergic to f***ing grass, because what happened next was just ridiculous. 10-1 to Arsenal. You know when Francis Jeffers is banging in a hat-trick against you, it might be time to switch profession. Praise above, Quincy Owusu-Abeyi was even on the score sheet. A fella to whom the offside rule is clearly a foreign concept. But again, I'm not really sure what the point of this friendly was. It was essentially like Tyson Fury preparing for his match against Deontay Wilder by punching a paralysed kitten straight in the face. Aston Villa, 3-0 win versus Inter Milan. This was a very impressive pre-season win. Bear in mind, this Inter Milan side were a little under 2 years off winning the goddamn treble, and here they were getting tossed around Villa Park like a melted cheese sandwich. There were World Cup winners at the back, Luis Figo in midfield, a front line as Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Adriano, although this was around the time that he developed a chronic addiction to anything coated in sugar, and they still couldn't get past Stuart goddamn Taylor in the net. Wheeled out for his annual pre-season friendly before going off to spend 9 months playing Halo in his shed. Bournemouth 6-0 defeat versus Real Madrid. I'm just not sure why this ever occurred. I get Bournemouth were feeling confident having just secure promotion from League One back in the summer of 2013, but chucking in a pre-season friendly in between pre-season games against Bashley and Bristol f***ing City just seemed a bit pointless. Like, pre-season friendlies are supposed to teach you something. What were they going to learn from this other than the fact that Tommy Elphick and Lewis Graben don't belong on the same pitch as fucking Ronaldo? It's a bit like me organising an arm wrestle against Arnold Schwarzenegger. I already know he's going to rip my elbows clean off my f***ing shoulders. For Christ's sake, even a 36-year-old Ian Hart is getting wheeled out for this one. He should have been sitting at home with a pipe and a crossword puzzle, not chasing Di Maria around the f***ing pitch. Ronaldo scored twice, Sami Khedira got 1, Gonzalo Higuain, Di Maria and Casemiro brought the score up to 6 in what was one of Mesut Ozil's last game for the club. Yeah, hope you felt good about yourselves, Madrid. Bringing your A game to little old Bournemouth. It's essentially like giving yourself a pat on the back for beating a dyslexic 6-year-old in a goddamn spelling bee. Brighton 1-0 win versus Sevilla. It is pre-season in a nutshell. 26th July 2015, Brighton are losing 1-0 at Aberdeen. Less than a week later, they're beating the Europa League winners by the same scoreline. A Thomas Hemed penalty was enough for the championship side. I know it was pre-season, but it's just a bit of a weird scoreline. Burnley versus Stockport County. Okay, this was a game that didn't even take place. In July 2015, Stockport County were supposed to play Burnley reserves when it was cancelled over hooligan fears. I'm sorry, what pissed up sad case is threatening violence at a pre-season friendly involving a goddamn reserve game? Chelsea 4-2 defeat the New York Red Bulls. This was arguably the moment Jose Mourinho's time at Chelsea just began to collapse. It was the summer of 2015, they were the reigning champions of England, and then they get smashed 4-2 at New York Red Bulls, a football club named after a goddamn energy drink, and to treat Sean Ray Phillips' brother as the second coming of Christ itself. It was a full-strength Chelsea side against a team who just played a competitive MLS game 30 hours earlier. So effectively it was a Red Bulls team consisting of kids and second-string players, and they still lost 4-2. For God's sake, one of the goal scorers had to be back in geography at 9 AM the next morning. Crystal Palace 6-2 defeat to Barnet. This result only happened last week. Remember Barnet, that club who conceded 10 goals against Arsenal in the pre-season friendly? Well, there they are, scoring 6 against Crystal Palace. Imagine Wilfred Zaha away on international duty, getting an update that his teammates have just been rolled over by a bunch of plumbers and part-time postmen. He'd have been probably weeping if a goddamn sock. To be fair, it was a side consisting of Palace fringe players, but still, I mean, God help Stephen Henderson. You wait 9 months to get your chance in goal and then concede 6 to a non-league team. Christ above, that is like waiting 3 weeks to get yourself a date and then choosing to get sick in her dinner. Everton 22-0 win versus ADV Erding. I'm sorry, what was the point of this other than just embarrassing this pub team? At least I hope they were a pub team, or each player should seriously consider a change of career. Come on lads, I know it was Marco Silva's first game, but come on. This club invites you into their home, allow you to use the Alpine region of riding for a training camp, and you choose to beat them by 20 odd goals. That is essentially like turning up at Thanksgiving and taking a piss on the fucking turkey. There was a goal every 4 minutes. The Toffees were 10-0 up at the break. Kevin Morales and Ademola Lookman both scored hat-tricks. Cenk Tosun and Omar Nias both scored 4 apiece. Were they playing against a bunch of lads pissed off their head? Had the opposition ever been introduced to the concept of a goddamn football? Clearly not, because 22-0? What was the point of organising this friendly? Big deal, you can stick 20 goals in 90 minutes. The keeper probably had arthritis. Leicester City, 4-2 defeat versus Barcelona. I'll go for the summer 2016 when Leicester, Premier League champions now, switched up their pre-season routine, turning down previous visits to Mansfield and Doncaster to visit the likes of PSG and Barcelona instead. Which is a bit like ditching your school friends for the likes of Cheryl Cole and Louis Walsh as soon as you win the goddamn X Factor. But this backfired. I mean, they lost 4-0 in Paris before going down 4-2 at the Nou Camp. But like, what did they expect? I mean, it was Danny Simpson versus Lionel Messi. That's like trying to cut a steak with a goddamn spoon. Liverpool, a 5-0 defeat versus Mainz. Okay, this was worrying. With just 2 weeks to go before the start of the 06-07 season, Liverpool looked a mess. They'd already lost their previous 2 games to Kaiserslautern and Grasshopper. Here they were getting smashed 5-0 off Mainz 05. This was a game which might have had Liverpool fans think Rafa was sniffing glue when he splashed out on Jermaine Pennant. But who knew that Liverpool would end up reaching the Champions League final that season? And also, who knew that the next time they'd win the Champions League, it would be with that Mainz manager, the lad who just orchestrated one of their most embarrassing pre-season results of all time. Man City, 2-0 defeat to Dundee. Cast your mind back to the summer 2014. Man City were Premier League champions and begun preparations for the next season with a 2-0 defeat at Dundee. Did the City players spend the month of June huffing petrol fumes or something and stuffing their faces with anything straight out of the deep fat fryer? Because honestly, if this was not audition for some of the players to stake a claim for a first team spot, they failed with 9 players subbed at half time. Christ above, this was probably the moment Jack Rodwell and Scott Sinclair wrote their careers into an early grave. What made this even weirder though was that this took place on the day of a World Cup final. Imagine being a dedicated City fan, choosing not to watch the biggest game on sport, to instead sit on a 6-hour megabus up to f***ing Scotland to watch Michael Richards fail to trap the ball in the goddamn rain. Man United, 3-1 win versus Real Madrid. This is exactly why you shouldn't read too much in the pre-season. Man United, brimming with confidence under Louis van Gaal, tore the champions of Europe apart in front of a record US crowd of 109,000 in Michigan. That's a lot of people witnessing Ashley Young banging 2, with Javier Hernandez adding another, with Gareth Bale's penalty all Madrid could muster. Soon, United fans were predicting a return to English dominance under Van Gaal. That didn't happen. Newcastle, 6-1 defeat versus Leyton Orient. One of the most important preseason friendlies on the list. The summer 2009 was a dark time to be a Newcastle fan. The club had just been relegated, were flogging half their squad while a new manager still had not been announced. The club was in such a mess with fans even worrying about a relegation to League One. This result did not help. 6 days before the passing of Sir Bobby Robson, the club were surrendering 6 goals against Leyton Orient, a club who just finished halfway down the 3rd tier. Half the Newcastle fans no doubt had been talked down off the goddamn Tyne Bridge. The players then at a post-game meeting cleared the deadwood and went on to win the championship. I just think it's devastating that when Sir Bobby Robson left this world, the club had just chucked in a pitiful, spineless, wretched excuse of a performance. I only hope that he didn't watch it. Norwich City, 13-0 win versus mystery team. Norwich City apologised to Italian club after claiming 13-0 win. Nah, Norwich City weren't apologising for scoring 13 goals. They apologised because they simply didn't know who they were playing. For some reason they thought they were playing Italian 4th tier side San Christophe Valle de Coste, only for that club to announce that no, they'd never seen Norwich before in their lives. The opposition they were actually playing was just some regional side from the back arse of the Italian countryside. I mean lads, there's one thing beating someone by double digits, but not even bothering to learn the other team's name, that is just rude. Sheffield United, 1-1 draw versus Inter Milan. Last season, Sheffield United's pre-season schedule consisted of trips to Mansfield Town, Doncaster Rovers and Stocksbridge Park Steels. Oh yeah, and they also hosted Inter Milan at Bramall Lane, which is essentially like hooking up with a bunch of drunken vegans down the back of the local skip before bagging a date with an Italian supermodel. What a great day this must have been for the Blades. It ended 1-1 with Mauro Icardi's strike cancelling out one from David McGoldrick. Yeah, pre-season just weird. Southampton, 10-0 win versus KVV Quick. Again, just another routine thrashing against an amateur team that taught Southampton nothing other than the fact that professional players are better than lads working down the post office. Both Graziano Pelle and Jay Rodriguez scored hat-tricks in a game that was just embarrassing for everyone involved. Tottenham, 5-0 win versus Roma. Again, another example why pre-season friendlies don't really mean much. August 2008, Spurs completed an unbeaten pre-season with a 5-0 thumping of Roma. New signing David Bentley back too, Darren Bent got another brace, with Aaron Lennon also getting a goal. Surely this was the year that Spurs would finally blast into the top 4 as long as they stayed away from plates of lasagna. No, they lost 6 of their opening 8 league games, and we're bottom of the league at Halloween. Oh, and don't even get me started on David Bentley. Watford 0-0 versus Zanzi Mahashala. This game just made me feel bad for the travelling Watford fans. Imagine forking out for an 8-hour summer flight to Russia, sitting in the freezing cold for 90 minutes, and you don't even get to see any goals. That sort of financial recklessness is certainly enough to talk you into an early goddamn divorce. West Ham 1-1 draw versus Oxford. Well, this was weird, simply because it's the match that Harry Redknapp chucked a fan up front. In a game between West Ham and Oxford in 1994, some lad called Steve Davies spent the game munching a pie in the crowd whilst hurling abuse at Lee Chapman. That's former West Ham striker Lee Chapman, not the postman who dresses up as Jamie Vardy for a living. So as reward, Redknapp gave this supporter a pair of boots and chucked him up front to see if he'd do any better. I mean, he scored an offside goal, so there's that. Wolves 6-1 defeat versus Morecambe. As preparation for the 03-04 Premier League season, having just clinched promotion, Wolves fans got to spend a nice summer's day in July 2003 watching their side get torn apart by Morecambe FC. 6-1 on a pudding pitch. Anyway, that's the video, lads. Let me know, what was the weirdest preseason game you ever saw? Anyway, Instagram and Twitter is there. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, share and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.